Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of the Paul Brown Show. This evening, my guest will be Representative Rodney Moore. He's the District 99 representative. How you doing there, Mr.
I'm outstanding, Paul. Great to thank you for having me on your show. We've been trying to get together for
Correct.
a while, and I think today is a good day, and look forward to having this conversation with
I
you.
really appreciate you coming on the show. I know we've been seeing you in the news pertaining to the sex offenders transitional housing situation. What is going on with that? What's the status on that?
Well, presently, all of the sex offenders in that particular neighborhood have been moved out. It talks about, but we have to look at a more underlying problem is that when the sex offenders or when that particular house was transitioned into that use, the neighborhood was not aware. They didn't have any type of input from the neighbors, and so that made it a combustible situation once they learned of what that house was going to be used for. And so we have to do a better job in the state and also with city council and with the city to make sure that our neighborhoods are aware of changes that come so drastically with that change and of that particular house being used to house the sex offenders, which is for the most part a very, very sensitive issue for communities in the city.
Correct. I mean, because the Mecklenburg County zoning approved the location, and then we probably got more transitional housing within the area. So how do we solve this problem? How do we get the neighborhoods informed that there is this house in their location?
Well, I think let me back up. When we did a bill in 2011, it was called the Justice Reinvestment Act. There was a provision, a pilot program that allowed for houses for sex offenders and other people who are transitioning out of custody to go into certain pilot programs with neighborhoods and those type of things. But what we didn't have a provision that it had to go through a normal rezoning process from the city. It was something that the state, through Department of Public Safety, just kind of looked at the application and it just approved it without a whole lot of input from the citizens. And so we have to go back and we have to change that law and do a better job of having more transparency and for the community.
Okay, as of March 11, according to the citydata.com, there are 906 registered sex offenders living in Charlotte. The ratio of residents in Charlotte to the number of sex offenders is 856 to 1. What does that statistics mean to you?
Well, it means that we have a substantial population of people who have offended in the past, and we really need to do, once again, we need to do more with transparency and letting the community know where those sex offenders are. And just to be fair about it, the people who are on the sex offender registry really need to have an opportunity to get their lives together, and so there needs to be a balance with transparency, but also we really need to bring those citizens after they've served their time, after they've served their sentence, to bring them back and let them start the transition to become productive members of society.
So I think the neighborhood probably would have felt better if they were informed,
Absolutely.
That the house was being used as this, and then they were being given the opportunity to decide than not being told and it just popping up on them.
Absolutely, and that's why we need to go back and change the statute so that problems like these won't come up again in communities, not only in Charlotte, but across the state.
Okay, voting. I know you're big on voting. Why should we as citizens get out and vote?
Well, first and foremost, it's your constitutional right as a citizen of the United States. Secondly, if you look at the African American experience here in the United States, for years and years we were barred from voting for various reasons. And so if you look at now, we just had the 50th anniversary of the Selma March.
Correct.
that was that the theme of that march was voting rights. But now we've had these victories, Paul, but we still see ourselves 50 years later still fighting those battles, probably on a different battlefield, but we're still fighting the same battles to give African Americans access to the ballot. And so it's particularly important because it's historically valid that we go out and vote, because people have died and they've sacrificed themselves for us to be able to change our government, have a say in our government through the ballot box. And I just think that's the most fundamental thing that any citizen has an obligation to do as a citizen of this country.
How difficult does it make it for President Obama when he's being outnumbered by the Republicans and their voices?
Well, I think that's one of the good things about the way that we have a constitutional government. We have checks and balances. President Obama represents the executive branch, then you have the judicial branch, and then you have the legislative branch. Right now, the legislative branch is dominated by one philosophy, one party, but we still have stopgaps in every situation where it can't be a situation where everybody, one branch can dominate the other. And so I think that even though he has a hard task ahead of him, I think that he's more than up to the task to push some of the things that he feels are important, and he's heard from the American people. And so I think as you start to see him go down, his presidency kind of wane down, then you'll start to see a little bit more movement, hopefully, in cooperation between all the branches of government.
Being a representative, what do you like most about it, that position?
Well, I like that I'm able to, in a small way, to enrich the lives of the citizens, not only in my district, but of the people of the state of North Carolina. I feel that it's more of a mission for me, more so than a job. A lot of people in Raleigh right now, because I'm a Democrat and the Republicans are in control of all three branches of government. A lot of times people feel like it's a cumbersome act to go up and to really continue to advocate and fight for the issues that are important to the people of North Carolina when you're at such a disadvantage.
Correct.
But I always believe that you continue to fight and you continue to advocate for those things, for those values that the citizens have expressed, and there are no defeats when you do that. There are always pockets of victory. So I'm very, very privileged and proud to be North Carolina State Representative, and I look forward to it every day because I affect somebody's life in a positive way.
And you're doing a great job there, Representative.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Okay, you introduced a bill to prohibit discriminated profiling. Tell us a little bit about that and how is that going along?
Well, we introduced the bill Tuesday. It's called to prohibit discriminatory profiling, and what it does, it stops or it's a stopgap for law enforcement who not to discriminate or not to profile people or classes of people because of their race, their gender, their national origin, religious affiliation, and those type of things. So we've seen instances, Paul, across the nation.
Correct.
Recently with Ferguson, Missouri, and even in our own state, there's been some very, very tense moments in Durham and Wilmington, North Carolina, even the upcoming trial that we have here in Charlotte this summer, where the young man was questionably shot 10 times while he was unarmed. And so we really want to get ahead of this issue and have a community conversation and put some things in place so that we won't have those combustible situations here in North Carolina.
And I know Chief Monroe and Sheriff Carmichael, they have done a great job as the chief and sheriff. And what do you feel their input into the situation will be?
Well, I think that the chief has been a great partner with this conversation. I think he is rightfully admitted that There's been there needs to be better oversight and some better data when it comes to claims of racial profiling in the community. And so he's been a very honest broker and a good partner. And so we look forward to, as we work this bill through the General Assembly, he will definitely be someone that we keep informed and someone that we will look to as a partner.
Okay, racial profiling. Will we ever be able to solve that problem? I mean, because that's.
It's something that's, be honest, Paul, it's something that's inbred
Correct.
into the culture and the history of the United States. I don't know if we will ever solve that problem, but one of the things that we can do is make sure that in cases where those particular situations arise,
Correct.
that we have laws in place to enforce and to make sure that we hold those individuals accountable who cross that line.
Let's talk a little bit about education. Now, how do you feel Mecklenburg County education is compared to other states, and how can we improve it?
Well, there again, I always feel like we can improve
Correct.
on anything that we do. I think that Mecklenburg County has some challenges, especially when it relates to getting all of our children on reading level, and you have to break down into a socio-economic aspect or look at it. A lot of times because of socioeconomics or where a child is, or based upon the conditions of his parents, there's a gap in reading. There's a gap in reading, and reading is the building block for everything else as far as education. You know, you have to know how to read and disseminate information. I'm very aware of our children having to be able to understand the STEM disciplines. Okay. You hear about science, technology, engineering, and math. Those are the things, those are the disciplines that are going to make our children, our workforce competitive in the future. And we're not only competitive with Virginia and South Carolina and Tennessee, we're competitive in India, we're competitive in China, we're competitive in West Africa. And so we need to give our children that building block, that fundamental base, to make sure that they're able to compete in the new world economy.
Why is it so important that parents go out to these, what would you call, parents meetings, PTSAs? Why is it so important that they get involved and get into these type activities with the schools?
Well, the parents are the first teachers of the child, and children respond better when there's parental interaction, not only with their schools but with their social life and other things, because that bond, that connection between parent and child is something that's already there. Mm-hmm. And so it's just better that the parent can enhance that experience, and so the parent can be educated about what's going on in the school, what the curriculum is, what the teaching methods are. And I just think that it makes for a better student and a better situation all the way around.
Do you feel like we put our priorities more into the, what we call the sports, than into the education of our child?
Well, I think that all, sports, academics, I think they're all relevant. But there again, you have to have that foundation, that building blocks, because everybody's not going to be lucky enough to be Michael Jordan or Cam Newton. And so we have to, while we want our children to recreate, we want them to understand about team sports and about how it is to collaborate with one another. We also want them to be able to have those fundamental skills so that they can be successful in life wherever they find themselves.